We all like to think of ourselves as stronger than what we actually are. But in this video, I'm going to give you an overview as to the difference between mentally weak people and mentally strong people. You don't have to watch this video with others, and you certainly don't have to respond out loud. You don't even have to leave a comment. So my point is this: no one on the planet needs to know you're watching this or that you're assessing yourself. So be honest with yourself. Give yourself absolutely honest feedback and find out where you stand. Are you mentally weak or mentally strong? Well, there are surefire signs of mental weakness. The first sign of mental weakness is trying to control others. Mentally weak people try to control others versus mentally strong people who understand that the only person they actually can control is themselves. The Buddha once said, in fact, that one may conquer 1,000,000 men in battle, but the greatest and best warriors conquer themselves. The first sign of mental weakness that can help you understand if you're struggling in a space of mental weakness or mental strength is this: do you find yourself seeking to control others? Do you need to control other people's opinions? Do you need to rally other people to dislike who you dislike? Do you need to rally other people to think the way you think? If you find yourself in that space, needing to have other people dislike who you dislike, if you need to find a way to have other people think what you think and you need to control that, that's a sign of mental weakness. Now, the reality is that just as everyone you've ever encountered has had his or her own individual experience of you, and for those who, well, let's say you encountered them and you weren't at your best, could you imagine if they went around rallying everyone to see you in that negative light, the experience that they had with you? Just as you wouldn't want that, think about all the people that you might try to rally others to dislike because you didn't have the best experience with that person. If you find yourself seeking to control what others think, feel, say, or do, well, you're in a space of mental weakness. Mentally strong people seek only to control themselves. The second sign of mental weakness is living in your cartoon world. If you follow this channel at all, you know there's a difference between what I call the cartoon world the way we think it should be, and the real world, the way the world actually is. And all people have a cartoon world. It's a part of being human. There are things that we think should have happened. Things should be this way. People should think, feel, believe, and behave the way I think they should. And then there's the reality, how people actually think, feel, believe, and behave. No matter how logical your cartoon world ever is, the reality is that if it didn't happen, then it's as made up, as fictional as a cartoon world. She shouldn't have said that. Real world. She did say that. Cartoon world. He shouldn't have done that. Real world. He did do that. If you find yourself caught up in your cartoon world often, it's a sign of mental weakness. One thing you're going to learn from this video is this: no matter where you are, you can always improve. So if you can assess yourself accurately, you give yourself a better chance to work on the things you need to work on. The third sign of mental weakness is impulsivity and reactivity. Mentally weak people are impulsive and reactive. It takes discipline, it takes self-discipline to be able to have an impulse but not need to impulsively satiate that impulse. It takes discipline to be able to have a thought that is reactive, but instead take a step back and ask yourself if it's the right time and space to respond. There's a difference between being impulsive and reactive and self-disciplined. Time and again, we see this, that mentally weak people are impulsive and reactive. And that kind of leads into the next sign of mental weakness. Mentally weak people take things personally. They take things personally that aren't personal toward them. For example, imagine if someone on this planet was watching this video and somehow thought that it was personal toward them, when in fact I'm simply giving a video for the world, for anyone to watch. There's no one in mind with this video. So if you watch a video like this, or any video out there, or you read a book, maybe it's a self-help book, and you read it and you take it personally. If you personalize things that aren't personal, well, that's a sign of mental weakness. Mentally strong people understand the very important skill of discernment. They can discern the difference between when something is intended to guide them or teach them, or when something is directed as an insult toward them. But even if something's an insult toward you, well, remember, no one who is in a place of peace could ever do anything or say anything harmful to you. So it's never personal. People's rude comments and things are about themselves, not about you. If you find yourself taking things personally, it's a sign of mental weakness. The next sign of mental weakness is making excuses. If you find yourself making excuses, well, that's a sign of mental weakness. Yes, but this shouldn't happen. Yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. You can find yourself playing the yes, but game. You can find all kinds of excuses to create, but the reality is that people see your actions, not your intentions. And just as you judge others by their actions, but judge yourself by your intentions, the world never sees your intentions. They only ever see your actions. You can play the yes but game all day if you want, but the reality is the more excuses you make, the more you're dwelling in a space of mental weakness. Mentally strong people, on the other hand, accept complete responsibility for everything they think, feel, say, and do. The more you can accept complete responsibility for the entirety of who you are, the more you're in a space of mental strength. The next sign of mental weakness is complaining. Mentally weak people complain. Time and again, look, we all go through difficult moments, and there's a difference between venting and complaining. People who vent, that's normal. Like, you're going to go through very difficult moments in life, and you need to get that off your chest. Talk about it. Oftentimes, when we can say things out loud, we crystallize those ideas. That's why it's very healthy to talk to a professional counselor or a mental health professional. The more you can get things off your chest and vent, that's very helpful. But there's a difference between venting and complaining. To complain is to continue to talk about the same thing over and over again without looking for solutions. And advanced complainers can talk about all the solutions that they were looking for, but they never found. The truth is, there's a difference between venting and complaining. If you find yourself complaining, which is talking about the same thing 3 times without looking for a solution, then you're stuck in the complaint world. You're going to find that mentally strong people only focus on what they can control and only focus on what they can do from this moment forward. So if you find yourself complaining, it's a surefire sign of mental weakness. The next sign of mental weakness occurs, and this happens all the time, when mentally weak people look for reasons why something can't work. This can't work. This won't work. And mentally weak people look for why things won't work or why things can't work, whereas mentally strong people immediately seek to see what they can gain from this moment forward. So think about this. You might read a book, and a mentally weak person might look at everything that doesn't work in that book for them. Well, this won't work for me. This won't work for me. Whereas mentally strong people can read that same book, and the only thing they focus on is what they can take. Maybe it's only a paragraph, maybe it's a sentence, maybe it's a word, but they're only going to focus on what they can use. They're not going to waste mental energy focusing on what doesn't work or what can't be helpful for them. Mentally weak people look for why things won't work. It's the first thing they say. It's so easy to spot. Mentally strong people immediately seek to see how they can apply anything to help them to become the best versions of themselves. Finally, mentally weak people consistently time and again, seek to be right. If you find yourself in a space where you seek to be right, it is a sign of mental weakness. Mentally strong individuals don't need to be proved right. They don't gain strokes from other people telling them they're right. They know and they do the best that they can, and they learn constantly. But it's not about being right, it's about learning. It's about doing your best. Mentally weak people, however, need to prove themselves right. They need to be right in the arguments. They need to be right. And they're kind of like a puppet. So the world can just move them this way or that way, because mental puppets need to go around and they're really being controlled by everyone else. They think they're seeking to control others by proving themselves right. But the truth is they are that person's puppet, because they need that person to say, yes, you're right, I'm wrong. So mentally weak people seek to be right. Mentally strong people understand and seek only to get things right. Big difference between seeking to be right and seeking to get things right. If you find in any of these concepts that you are in a space of mental weakness, please understand this. It takes great courage to be honest with yourself. It takes great courage to recognize where you are and be open to learning, to growing. You're not supposed to be perfect. You're not supposed to come out being mentally strong. And just as it would take effort to develop mental strength or physical strength, and you'd go to a gym, you don't just walk into a gym, lift one time and say, that's it, I'm strong. It's going to take time, effort, dedication. It's going to take self-discipline. And in the same way, mental strength can be developed. You can become extremely powerful. You can become mentally strong, but it's going to take effort. It's going to take self-discipline, and it's going to take time. The more you go inward, the more you challenge yourself, the better chance you have to get to the space where you can be in control regardless of what goes on around you. Mentally weak people will always seek to control the outside world. They will always seek to control how others think, feel, believe, and behave. Mentally strong people understand that they are the only ones with unfiltered, unrestricted access to their minds. And if their inner world isn't a place of peace, they have only themselves to blame for it. You are the absolute ruler of your inner world. So if your inner world isn't a world and a place of peace, there's no one else who can change it but you. I'm hopeful that this is helpful for you, but know this. I have lots of books, I have lots of videos, and I'm not the only one. There are tons of people out there that have books and videos for you. Seek to grow, seek to become the best version of yourself, and understand that it will take time, effort, and self-discipline, but I promise you it's worth it. Because whether you start now or whether you start sometime in the future, at the end of the day, at some point in your life, you're going to realize that you are the only one with unfiltered access to your mind. And if your mind is in a space of peace, you're the only one who can change that. I hope this helps. Until next time, as always, I wish you much peace.